basketball, guys. You feel like the wind when you've got the ball and go to the basket. Let's go for it. It's cool to be with your brothers.
Welcome back to the third part of the Slam Dunk, where we continue the hilariously motivating tale of Sakuragi, a new basketball player not yet acquainted with the game's finer points. As his and Yuhai's brawl against Mitsui and his gang continues, buckle in for the ultimate destination for all things basketball. It's time to slam dunk like a pro. Get ready to witness jaw-dropping dunks and epic matches. Join us as we witness this journey of a comically brilliant basketball team hoping to become the very best, and let's travel through the brilliant story of Slam Dunk once again. Yuhai punches Mitsui and ferociously asks if he's going to come by the gym again, but he doesn't answer. Meanwhile, Sakuragi keeps beating up Tetsuo for his mates and for the mop he broke, and proclaims that he's figured out all his punches as the onlookers gawp at him in shock. Kogure steps up and tells Yuhai to stop, but Mitsui angrily slaps him and tells him to get lost, but Kogure seems unaffected and tells him to be more mature. Akagi slowly enters the gym and blocks the door behind him, telling the teachers that his team is trying to increase their stamina and endurance alone. He steps up to Mitsui and slaps him a few times before Kogure explains to the others that he was also part of the Shohoku Basketball Club. After getting named the MVP for the regional championship, he enrolled in Shohoku to everyone's shock and proclaimed that he'd take the team to nationals, which had seemed like a believable goal at the time because of his incredible prowess during the first practice match. He seemed to easily be the best player and easily surpassed Akage, who at the time had really bad technique despite being 193 centimeters tall. But all that had changed later as Kogure disbelievingly thinks about how much he's changed since then. Kogure tells them about a practice match in which Akagi was facing off against Mitsui. The game had seemed hopelessly one-sided at first, with Mitsui's superior technique and play, but Akagi had suddenly rushed against him to stop his dunk and had surprisingly succeeded owing to his sheer size, after which the players happily acknowledged that they might have a chance as Mitsui and knowingly named him the Gorilla. When the game had resumed, Akagi had told his teammates to leave Mitsui to him, and even though he was having trouble stopping him, he was starting to slowly chip away at him. As their game had resumed with Akagi getting better and better, Mitsui had furiously decided to dunk a game stopper, but had injured and hurt himself before being rushed to a hospital. Later, when Kogure had visited him, he'd seen Mitsui's picture from his middle school championship and asked why he decided to join Shohoku, to which he'd told him that it was because of their teacher, Anzai, who'd motivated him when he'd similarly injured himself in the finals. He'd gotten up and dunked the final shot that won them the match, winning them the championship. He smiles and confidently proclaims that he'll get better and go beat Akagi, as the others confusingly wonder why he hadn't kept his promise later. Later, while they were playing a practice match, Mitsui had entered the gym with his crutches and told everyone that he'll be able to make it to the inter-high qualifiers. He had started visiting the team every day, and this is much to the doctor's bemusement, and he told him to not be so reckless at his stage or else his ankle might take much longer to heal. But Mitsui had given his words no heed and started playing in the practice matches after getting relieved from his crutches, but when he'd done a high jump to dunk from afar, he'd injured his ankle in a much worse way, after which the doctor had told him that it'd take a month to recover, meaning that he won't be able to participate in the inter-high qualifiers. He'd come to see Shohoku's match and sadly left, after which he had never returned to the basketball gym. In the present, Mitsui punches Kogure and angrily states he doesn't like basketball, but Kogure grabs his collar and asks where all his passion for taking the team to the finals. Coach Anzai abruptly opens the door and enters before Mitsui slowly starts crying and says he wants to play basketball. Later, as the team is having a practice match, and Mitsui boldly enters the gym with his hair properly cut. As the team is practicing, Kogure decides to go a little easy on Mitsui since a 2-year gap is very big for an average player, but Mitsui dribbles past him and dunks the shot with ease, making Kogure angrily wonder why he decided to pity him. Sakuragi steps up next and expertly gets past the players before jumping high to slam a dunk, but gets distracted by Haruko entering the gym and throws it outside the basket before quickly rushing over to blushingly ask how he did. The team then goes to see the match schedules and find out that their first match is with Muradai. The next day, Sakuragi ends up not sleeping at all because of his excitement and goes to run a bit to get some light exercise in, dazedly thinking of when he'd become the star player. All the girls would madly swoon over him and Haruko will try to propose to him. He abruptly gets woken up by Haruko, because of whom he falls backward in surprise before jogging with her as she tells him that she introduced him to the basketball team because she believes in his potential much to his happiness. Later in class, she remarks it should be time by now. Meanwhile, the Shohoku and Miradai teams enthusiastically enter the match grounds. As the match starts, Sakuragi, who's sitting on the bench with Mitsui, Rukawa, and Ryota, asks Coach Anzai to let him into the match, but he declines and tells him that it's his punishment for fighting, and the other two annoyingly get up and start telling off Mitsui for getting them into trouble while he ignores their remarks, occasionally quietly dropping an insult or two. They see that Shohoku is having difficulty with Miradai because of them targeting only Akagi, which considerably weakens the team and pressurizes them. Akagi wearily tries to get their enthusiasm back, but they can't even chant properly. Mitsudai stops Akagi's dunk through a foul, and a player remarks that it doesn't matter how good a player is if they're able to stop them through any means possible. Meanwhile, Haruko happily notes down how many points each player will make and says they'll be able to win no matter what. Back at the game, Akagi rushes forward with the ball before passing it to Kogure, who runs forward and throws it back to him as he jumps up and scores a point, surprising everyone with their technique. Coach Anzai asks the benchers if they'll fight again, and when they promise not to, sends them into the court as they enthusiastically get ready to turn the tides. Seeing the newfound positivity on the Shohoku team, the players on Miradai decide to track all of the players individually as Akagi tells Sakuragi to not hold the team back, much to his embarrassment. As the game resumes, Akagi lands a dunk and Ryota successfully dodges a player and passes the ball to Mitsui, who does a shot from afar and gets it in. Sakuragi jealously looks at them, but Hekoichi shouts out from the stands and tells him to not worry since he hasn't made any rebounds yet, but he annoyingly starts telling him off for not bringing cute girls to cheer him on, and the others tell Hikoichi to not talk to Sakuragi again since he's damaging their reputation. Mitsui successfully lands another one in, and Akagi remarks that his skill is as good as ever before Sakuragi runs forward to dunk and receive his glory, but gets pushed by the Muradai team who are given a foul. The coach awards Sakuragi a penalty, but the others worryingly get ready for a rebound since he's never practiced free shots at all, and Sakuragi accidentally wastes the allotted 5 seconds of the first shot and loses a point, but he throws the second one and jumps for a rebound before getting blocked by Rukawa, who successfully dunks it in, evening the score. Sakuragi angrily starts pestering Rukawa and tells him to not get near him again. As the game resumes, Miradai's players get ready to dunk another one in, but as one of them nears the goalpost, he gets stopped by 3 Shohoku players and passes it, but Ryota gets the ball, runs forward but gets blocked, so Sakuragi tells him to pass the ball, but he throws it to Rukawa, who successfully dunks it in. Sakuragi approaches Ryota and asks him why he didn't pass the ball, so he answers that he didn't want it to get blocked before the two starts fighting each other, but quickly stop when Coach Anzai looks over at them. At timeout, the Miradai coach swaps in a large, bald student named Nato for Miyamoto and inwardly remarks that they stole him from the rugby team just for this. Later, Nato intentionally bumps into Sakuragi and receives a penalty as the game starts to turn in their favor, but Sakuragi decides to return the favor and pushes him a bit too hard as he's about to get one in and receives a foul. When Nato steps up for the free shot, Kogure convincingly says he won't be able to make it since it's his first time, but he throws both shots in and the game gets tied again as both teams annoyingly wonder who'll be the winner at the end. While Nato was practicing rugby, his upperclassmen had told him to run 100 laps, which was when he'd been spotted by a basketball team player and asked to play with them because of his physical prowess and speed. At the game, Sakuragi commits a foul when Nato falls to the ground on purpose. As Coach Anzai patiently looks at them, he figures out Miradai's real motive. Rukawa effortlessly scores another point, then passes it to Akagi who dunks it in as well, and Mitsui maintains the record by scoring one as well. Then Murade team starts getting under pressure. Later, a player starts annoying Sakuragi on purpose, so he elbows him, getting another foul as the referee asks him to hold up his hand to see if he has a brain or not. After that, as the ball gets thrown afar, Nato and Sakuragi both run towards it at the same time, but Sakuragi gets there first and successfully catches the ball. Before running towards the basket to slam it in, he gets stopped by the large, intimidating figure of Nato, but out of sheer desperation, slams the ball on his head, receiving another foul despite his protests. Getting dismissed for the 5th foul he's received, however, Shohoku still wins the match. As Sakuragi is angrily walking down the hallway, he gets stopped by a fat-looking boy who starts mocking him for dunking on another player's head, so they start fighting each other before Sakuragi walks away thinking to himself how he's supposed to face Haruko, who he abruptly runs into. But she consoles him, saying that it was just his first time. Later at the match, Sakuragi's sitting on the bench again and notices that 2 Kanon players have dropped by to see their match. When he gets subbed in, Kagure cheerily tells him not to mess up this time, which proves reasonable since Sakuragi commits a foul 10 seconds in and ends up receiving all 5 of them even though they win the match. As they're walking back, he dejectedly wonders if he isn't the self-proclaimed genius he thought he was. That night, he goes to Akagi's house and asks how to get better at defense, to which he answers that he should think about the reasons why he gets dismissed from the court and work on them. Meanwhile, as Mitsui's walking on the footpath, he meets Tetsuo, who chats with him a bit before riding away on his motorcycle as some police cars chase after him. Sakuragi reaches the basketball gym and sees Rukawa intensely practicing by himself, so he tells him that he won't be dismissed next time and will score more points than him before running away. During a practice match, Sakuragi faces off against Ryota and tries to remember what Akagi said, but still unknowingly gets a foul before starting to angrily ask the referee why she always went after him, but she starts telling him off in return for not maintaining good defense. While they're playing, a group of boys from before start betting on how long Sakuragi will last in the 3rd match, and the highest they go is 15 minutes, but Haruko annoyingly tells them that he'll stay in for at least 20 minutes before becoming distracted by Rukawa dunking a shot. As Sakuragi's walking home, he thinks of how Mitsui is also a rough guy but has still never committed a foul and accidentally reaches Akagi's home. He thinks about asking him for some help again when Haruko sees him from above and figures out why he's there. She tells him that she can help him practice, to which he happily agrees, but he can't concentrate because of her beauty, so Akagi steps in and takes her place. He tells him to use his eyes in an intimidating way to scare his opponents, so he utilizes this technique, scaring off people in and outside the court, and excitedly gets ready for the next match, but sleeps late the day of the match. Meanwhile, Mitsui sees some ruffians beating up Tetsuo and rushes over to protect him. Mitsui tries to protect him but refuses to fight, remembering his promise to Coach Anzai, and gets beaten up a lot before their leader tells him to bow down and beg him to stop, which he does, but his lackeys hold Mitsui tight as he grabs a cane and holds it high to smash it through his hands, making him unable to play basketball again. Meanwhile, Sakuragi hurriedly wakes up and crashes into his friends, who take him through a small alleyway and tell him to jump over a wall to get near the gymnasium. Coach Anzai and the team, who can't wait any longer, reluctantly reach the gym, where they start warming up as Akagi thinks about how he had wanted Mitsui and Sakuragi to both play as mains but bailed out on him. Sakuragi jumps over the wall and crashes into the lackeys holding Mitsui. He gets up and quickly understands the situation before his friends and Tetsuo tell them both to get to the gym while they take care of these. Sakuragi and Mitsui hurriedly reach the gym, and Mitsui opens the game with the rest of the team while Sakuragi impatiently waits at the bench. When Kagure trips over, Coach Anzai sends him in, and he starts trying to use his death stares to petrify the players in their tracks, but it doesn't work, and he gets 5 fouls all over again 15 minutes into the game, although they still win the match. While the team is practicing, Sakuragi's friends talk about how their efforts were basically wasted since Mitsui, who actually got beaten up, performed much better, and start cheering when he lands an impressive shot. Seeing this, Sakuragi jealously tries to dunk as well but smashes his face against the basket, and Akagi tells him that he's a decade early. He says that Sakuragi should focus on what he's good at since the team always looks forward to his rebounds since they can sometimes change the flow of the game. The next day, Shohoku faces off against Tsukubu, one of the 8 strongest teams. Although Tsukubu seemed to have an early lead, Shohoku soon caught up with Sakuragi's rebounds and Ryota's play and were able to defeat them rather easily. The next game is against Shoyo, a powerhouse, and Coach Anzai chooses Mitsui, Ryota, Akagi, Rukawa, and Sakuragi as the openers. Coach Anzai rounds the 5 players up and tells Sakuragi to take care of all the rebounds and round up points. Meanwhile, Shoyo's captain and coach, Fujima Kenji, motivates his players to give their all and tells them to not take Shohoku lightly since they've become a much stronger team. As the match starts, Akagi accidentally throws the ball towards Sakuragi and receives a jump ball violation for not letting the ball first reach the peak of its height, as a teacher from Shoyo notes that the pressure from this big of a crowd is getting to them. As the game starts, he notes that all the players are taller than the ones at Shohoku, and their center, Hanagata, dunks a shot after passing it through Akagi's powerful defense. As Sakuragi faces off against a player holding the ball, he decides to not make any fouls today and show everyone what he's really capable of, but sticks his hand out purely on reflex and commits his first foul of the day before vowing to beat Hanagata. As Kagure sees Akagi's agitated movements, he remembers about their time as first years when he had tried to encourage them to play, even if they couldn't participate, and had practiced with him alone. As the match continues, everyone wonders how the agitated and worn-down Shohoku players will react to the calm and unshakable Shoyo players.
Hi guys! The first part of Slamdunk was fun, wasn't it? Basketball is great, let's play it together!